Hi, my name is Michael Davies, and I am the rabbi at Congregation Dor Tikva in Charleston, South Carolina. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity of going to Camp Stone, but I did go to Camp Mosheva IO for over 10 years, and my son Yoshua has been at Camp Stone for the last 2. Many favorite things about camp. One of my favorites is their focus on experiential education, specifically experiential Jewish education. And the fact that so many elements of camp in so many ways contain something chinuchi is so great. We see it when Yaakov comes to present in our home for recruitment in Charleston, and we see it in the things that are coming out of camp, even this year and certainly every year. Looking into some words to share, this coming week's Parashat Pinchas, we are offered the privilege of hearing an unusual and seemingly private name for Hashem, a name that we only know because the Torah allows us to listen in on a conversation between Moshe and Hashem. The name is used in a dialogue in which Moshe is asking Hashem to select a successor for him. He will not be entering into the land of Israel, and he's looking for someone to take over, and addresses Hashem as Elokei Haruchot, the God of spirits. So what does this mean? Why does Moshe specifically address Hashem in this way, in a way that we have not yet seen before? So Rashi explains that the name is referring to God in the context of being one who knows the spirit and potential of every human being. Hashem knows each and every person's capabilities and the special imprint that they can make on the world. Each and every person is different, and that was certainly going to be the case for Moshe and his successor. Our sages teach us in a midrash that helps us to explain this on a deeper level within the context of the sequence of events around this conversation. Moshe was told by Hashem to allow the daughters of Tzlafchad to inherit in the land of Israel. And he thought, well, if they were able to inherit and they were able to have a place in the land, perhaps he personally would be able to do so as well. And even though there were earlier conversations in which Moshe was told he would not enter the land, maybe his dream of entering the land of Israel would be fulfilled. Hashem answers his first request with a no. He would still not be able to enter the land, and Moshe would not lead the people there. So, according to Rashi and the Midrash, Moshe goes on to his second request. Once we're talking about inheritance, the inheritance of the daughters of Tzlafchad, of their father, perhaps if he wasn't able to lead the people into land, his children could be taking on that position of spiritual leadership. Once again, God's answer is no. Moshe raises the issue of succession, hope that he could see his son, one of them, take the mantle of leadership. But he is turned down and told that it would be his student Yehoshua and not his sons that would lead the people into the land of Israel. So finally, Moshe comes with a third request, and he says, okay, if Yoshua is going to be the one to do it, that's fine, but at the very least, he should receive the spiritual gifts that Moshe had acquired over the course of his life and leading the people. Moshe is again turned down, and he is told that Yoshua will receive from his glory, but not all of it. Mehodcha. 3 requests, 3 refusals. Why? The Moshe will not go into the land of Israel is an issue that was already decided. This is the work of a new leader and a new generation. After all, no one person can do it all. But the rest, succession of a student and not a son, and only partial transfer of insight, what does this teach us? So imagine if Moshe's sons had indeed been allowed to lead. The fact is, as the name Elokei Haruchot indicates, no 2 people are the same. And so Moshe's sons, like it or not, could never be Moshe. He was unique and special in his own right. But imagine if they had been allowed to lead. The Jewish people would have always looked to them to be Moshe Jr. And that simply was not to be the case and could never be. But it's also too easy to confuse. How often do we say about a child, wow, they resemble their parents so much? A spitting image. Looks just like his dad. Moshe's sons could have been subject to the same sort of comparison. And that is difficult to transcend. It's hard to get people past the memory and consequently the expectations of the parents. Moshe's children would never have stood a chance of becoming independent leaders. They would have always been expected to be what they could never be, their father Moshe. So the next best choice, Moshe's prized student, Yoshua. But here too, Hashem makes the point inescapably clear. Yoshua will lead, but will lead in his own way, in his own right, and not as an extension of his teacher Moshe. As a matter of fact, he will not even be as good. And we'll just have to deal with that because that's the reality of life. And so Hashem turns down Moshe 1, 2, 3, and makes the point clear for all time. We cannot look to a child to be their parent. We cannot look to the next generation to be the carbon copy of the generation before. Genetics are passed on, but traits are learned. Persona is unique. And how many of us deal with this as well? Our parents are or were great people. We saw it with our own eyes. We heard it from others. We know the stories. We've seen them, we've heard them. And we know how irreplaceable they are. We may even look like them, but that does not make it any more fair for anyone to expect us to be them, whether it's another person or especially ourselves. We're not doing anyone any favors by confusing physical genetics with the spiritual. We hear this week this nickname of God, Elokei Haruchot. It's up to us to understand its implications. We can't expect anyone else or ourselves to be an extension of the previous generation. We may exceed them, we may only be the moon reflecting their brilliance. But it's reality that we have to accept, and in doing so discover who we are in our own right. And this is another thing that I really appreciate, perhaps my most favorite thing, outside of the Machal Algonquin trip in Camp Stone. It's the emphasis on empowering the next generation. The fact that the camp is largely run not by adults, but by the kids, by the Hadracha, by the Tzevet. It's amazing, it's fantastic. It gives them the opportunity to become the leaders that they're meant to be. The next generation to come into their own, to get the experience of future leadership. And it's amazing to see what they accomplish time and time and time again. It's all the more impressive in this year, when things have been turned upside down, and to see what the Tzevet has accomplished even to this point in the Indoor World program is really phenomenal. Yasher Koach to them, and look forward to seeing continued amazing things